Hello, and welcome to Brain Health Matters, a series of books, courses, and programs all designed to help you become healthier so your brain can become happier and stronger. I'm Kate Kunkel, and this week my interview is with Kim Murphy, who shares important information about the connection between whole plant foods and a healthier brain. Like me, this is Kim's second go-round at a whole foods plant-based diet, and her success story is inspiring. We have a lot in common, Kim and I, a parent who passed with dementia, and finding our way to a healthier future by cleaning up our own diets. I'm excited to be sharing this conversation with you so that you too can feel great, remember more, and know that you may have been helping not just yourself, but the animals and the environment. I'll be right back with Kim after this message from the Vegan Brain.
You have 86 billion reasons to go vegan, and they're all resting right between your ears. That's right, 86 billion neurons that make up the master controller we call our brains. And while they're in control, our lifestyle choices determine how well they work, and that means we must nurture and protect them. The best way to do that? With a whole foods vegan diet that nurtures not just the physical, but also the emotional, mental, and spiritual brain. In the Vegan Brain, you'll learn how whole plant foods can nurture the healthiest version of yourself, and, perhaps more importantly, how your choices can reduce suffering for countless animals and help create a more compassionate, sustainable world. The Vegan Brain second edition also includes nutritious recipes and meal plans so that your journey towards a kinder, healthier future will be easy and delicious. Available in ebook format on Amazon.
Hello and welcome to Brain Health Matters. I'm Kate Kunkel, and I'm so delighted today to be sharing the stage with Kim Murphy. Kim is a certified plant-based health coach and the founder of Simply Plant-Based Kitchen. She's also an Amazon best-selling author of her new book, Plant Powered, and I've been reading it and I love it. Kim was inspired to start a whole food plant-based lifestyle to improve her own health after she lost her dad to Alzheimer's. Kim started her business, Simply Plant-Based Kitchen, because she wanted to help busy and overwhelmed people learn how to make whole food, plant-based eating simple, easy, and delicious so they can feel amazing and have their best health. Welcome, Kim. I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've chatted and a lot of things have changed. I'm so excited about your book. Folks, I've been reading it. It just resonates so well with me. It's easy to understand and very simple steps. So we'll be talking more about that in a moment. But for people who are not familiar with Kim, what was it? You started this whole thing because of your dad's diagnosis, like I did with my mom's diagnosis with dementia. So tell me, what about his illness started you on this path?
It was really the losing him to Alzheimer's. It was just such a, it's just such a turning point when you lose your dad or mom or parent. It just really kind of stops you in your tracks and makes you think, life is short. What am I doing? And I had learned about a whole food plant-based diet years ago, trying to lose baby weight, and I couldn't keep it going. But this time when I lost my dad, I wasn't healthy. I had brain fog. I was concerned, like, is this the beginning of Alzheimer's? You know what I mean? And so I really dug back into the science. And even at that point, I didn't know enough at that time that a whole food plant-based diet that I had tried before. I knew about the heart disease, I knew about weight loss, I knew about a lot of things, but I didn't know the connection between preventing Alzheimer's. And so I went back and I was rereading a lot of the science and just kept hearing the same thing, that was the way, to prevent the same thing that happened to my dad. I mean, he also had a heart disease and prostate cancer, but it was really the Alzheimer's that, seeing my dad just become a shell of himself and literally fade away, in front of our eyes. And it's like they just become a different person.
You're right about, heart disease was a separate for him, or you feel that it was, but that is a risk factor for dementia. Cancer
I didn't know that.
Yes. And cancer is a risk factor for dementia. So having all those things kind of set him up, besides their own problems, it set him up for my mom also had cancer 5 times.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I didn't know the connection then that I do now about heart disease and Alzheimer's, that they're just so related because they're really both a vascular disease. It's much better understood. I mean, think about it. It's like if you clog up the tiny vessels in your brain, yeah, you have less blood flow, and things are gonna, get all those, toxin buildup, and you're gonna, have all those problems. It just cascades. And so it's really the beginning. Like when people have heart disease, it's like Alzheimer's is just absolutely, possible.
I was just saying, I'm so glad that you figured that out when you were younger, because so many people they do it later when things are already really messed up.
Well, and I would say that I'm blessed in that my dad was actually an older dad. I was born when he was in his 40s. So that's why I'm starting basically 10 years younger than most people do. When they lose their parents, they're 10 years farther into the process. And so I'm kind of blessed in that, it happened earlier for me. So my cohort of people who have dads my age, you know what I mean? They're 10 years older than me. But yeah, that's how it all kind of started, was losing my dad and just really going, okay, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want that, or do I want to live to 100? That is actually my goal. I want to live to 100. I love centenarians. I just think it's so cool to see 100 years of life,
Yes. Oh my goodness. Especially when they have all their memories.
Yes, exactly. And not be in pain or have dementia or major disabilities. It's like the Blue Zones on Netflix that's out right now. I just love that. It's so inspiring. I just see their vitality, and they're in their 90s and 100s and they're still doing physical labor. And I just love that.
I have to say, my grandfather and grandmother on my dad's side, they were 90 and 91 when they finally gave up their farm. And it was only because Oma was starting to lose a little bit of her memory. So she'd leave pots on the stove and that sort of thing. So the family got worried, and of course, as soon as they were put in a nursing home, the decline just was cascading. But they were so active for so long. It was so good to see them, because you'd go there, Oma would be out in the garden. They had a huge garden. They had chickens, they had, everything. But that was how they maintained their health. They weren't eating processed foods. They were eating whole foods. Yes, of course, they ate meat and chicken and that sort of thing, but they were also eating whole foods all their lives.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yes. So, but you didn't do this easy the first time, just like me. We have so many similarities, because I also started the whole food plant-based many years ago, 1989. I don't even know if you were alive then, but I
definitely was.
So back then I started it, and I did not do it right. So I also fell off the wagon, so to speak. What was your difference this time?
Well, two things really. First of all, my why was totally different. I feel like, especially when we're younger, it's all about weight loss. And, and as I was getting older, it wasn't as easy. And I did lose weight very quickly it worked. It totally worked. But the biggest thing was that I was treating it like a diet. It was just, I went cold turkey, pun intended, and just overnight tried to do everything and expected myself to be perfect. And so when I wasn't perfect, what do? You beat yourself up, and you can't keep beating yourself up and expect to be successful. And so it only lasted a few months, but I lost all the weight. I felt great. I had people asking me, what was I doing to my hair and my skin in 3 months? And it was just like, okay, that's weird. But it was that I was treating it like a diet and not a lifestyle. And so, and my why was weight loss. And so that's a short-term motivator for most people. It is not, that kind of thing is it just doesn't last for most people, because when the going gets tough, you just go, oh, well, whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
So this time around, the why was different. Definitely, losing my dad, it was about health, and living as long as I could with, quality of life. But when I made the transition, I consciously was like, okay, this has to be my lifestyle. This can't be like another temporary diet that I just do it for a few months and fall off of. So I'm going to go slow. I'm going to transition slowly. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to focus on progress, not perfection. So, and I say that all the time because it's the lifestyle versus diet mentality. And so it was more about focusing on, how can I fill my body with more and more whole nutrient dense plant foods and less of everything else over time? And so just that switch, it's kind of like, counterintuitive, but it actually helped me to actually be better, like, what I mean, more successful and make better choices in different situations. And so it actually, kind of has the opposite effect. It actually helps you kind of do better, where you think, oh, if I'm just perfect, all the time, that just doesn't work.
You can't. We call it in the writer's world. I'm sure you've got this perfection paralysis. You can't be perfect. You're going to get stuck. And then you're going to beat yourself up, like you said.
Yeah.
And you were focusing on healthy, nutrient dense foods. In your book, you have a chapter called Eating Death Means More Death. That's a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, you think about, dead animals. We don't think about, the chicken and the steak and, the chicken nuggets and whatever. That's a dead animal. You know what I mean? And so if you're eating dead animals, I just feel like you're eating death, and so you're just going to create more death. And unfortunately, the studies they just back that up. Everything is associated with, eating more animal protein is associated with more chronic disease, inflammation, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's. It just is. And so if it's dead, I just think that that's, causing more death and decline.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The energy is so different. When I went 100% whole foods, and I did it gradually. I became vegetarian first this time. And then I got rid of all of that. And it was like this energy switch went on.
Yes.
It's like, I'm 65 years old and I have more energy now than I did when I was 35, honestly. I can run circles around most of the people I know who are much younger than me. They're all saying, "Oh, I'm so tired." Well, why are you tired? What do you eat? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about processed foods because they are going to give a whole different meaning to food than plant foods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The processed foods, especially this day and age, they are just everywhere. And, it's tricky because there's so many more and more of these plant-based processed foods that are marketed to be healthy. And while I do think that it's a good transition, it can help people transition and did help me and special occasions and things like that, they're just, they look nothing like the whole food it came from. It's like these protein isolates, tons of sodium. Just the sodium alone should scare people in processed foods because sodium, heart disease, all the inflammation weakens your bones, hard on your kidneys. It's like the sodium alone is just off the charts. And then like a lot of them are just filled to the brim with oil and coconut oil at that, which is so high in saturated fats. So it's like, if you just read the label and look at sodium content and saturated fat, that should make you run away from most of these products,
Yeah. And to me, anything that's processed so much, how do our bodies know what to do with it? Even getting aside on a lot of the chemicals, right? And the fact that I don't even know what they do to half of it to make it look like blood in the meat. Like, give me a break. Anyway, just the fact that it is not living, it's so far away. What do our bodies possibly know what to do with that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, and they don't, and that's why it creates, just as much inflammation as anything else because it doesn't know what to do with it, and right. It is so far removed from, healthy, living, bright, colorful, whole plants. It's just, and if you can't understand the list of ingredients, if it's just a bunch of chemicals, it is just a bunch of chemicals. It was made in a lab.
You have another chapter. You mentioned coconut oil. Now, I use coconut oil to get people into ketosis, but people mix oil and carbos and, they don't know how to actually use them. You want to use them properly if you're going to use oils. And you have another chapter about trading oils for nuts and seeds. Mm-hmm. And I 100% agree. It's much better to have the nuts and seeds, but a lot of people stay away from them because of the fear of fats. How do you address this?
Well, it's a whole food. So, these nuts and these seeds and the avocado, it has all the fiber, and it's all bound together. So the fiber is actually bound to a lot of the nutrients. So when you process nuts and seeds to create oil, you're taking away the fiber and all of the nutrients that make it, anti-inflammatory. So, the whole fat, the whole food with the fat also comes with so much more. And so you're getting so much more nutrients from it. The healthy omega-3s for your brain, obviously, and heart. But there's also, like, when you are eating the fiber with it, you don't actually absorb all of the fat as well. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you look on the back of a can of nuts, it might say 160 calories for, a serving size. You're not absorbing all of those calories because the fiber is holding on to some of it and it's going right out, right out in the toilet.
Same with fruit, right? People steer away from fruit because of the sugar. But when you eat the whole fruit,
Yeah.
you're getting all of the fiber, all of the other nutrients besides the fructose that your body also needs. It needs it. Our brain fuels initially on sugars, right? Carbos.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like all the studies show that eating more fruit actually helps you reduce, chronic disease, helps you lose weight, lower your cholesterol, so it's like staying away from fruit. Like, I understand the whole, like, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, it's very concentrated. You cannot consume enough fruit to get that load of fructose because you're going to be full. You'll stop eating. You're like, oh my God, I've had 5 apples. I can't, you know what I mean? And even that is not enough to compare to high fructose corn syrup, So they're just not the same thing. Again, it's the processing. You have the whole food and then you have the processed version, not the same.
Exactly. Kim, that's great. We're going to take a quick break. And then I want to ask you for some tips on transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet and save some time and money. We'll be right back.
You have 86 billion reasons to go vegan, and they're all resting right between your ears. That's right, 86 billion neurons that make up the master controller we call our brains. And while they're in control, our lifestyle choices determine how well they work, and that means we must nurture and protect them. The best way to do that? With a whole foods vegan diet that nurtures not just the physical, but also the emotional, mental, and spiritual brain. In the vegan brain, you'll learn how whole plant foods can nurture the healthiest version of yourself, and, perhaps more importantly, how your choices can reduce suffering for countless animals and help create a more compassionate, sustainable world. The Vegan Brain's second edition also includes nutritious recipes and meal plans so that your journey towards a kinder, healthier future will be easy and delicious. Available in ebook format on Amazon.
Okay, and we're back with Kim. Kim, what are your best tips for transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet?
Well, number one, I would say take it slow. There's just a lot to learn to be able to do it right, to make sure that you're, learning new recipes on the first place, like learning how to cook, in different ways. So I would say take it slow. I take my Plant Powered Life members through a very slow 6 weeks long process where each week they make one small change. So, for example, week 1 is focusing on whole grains, and so incorporating more whole grains into your diet instead of, refined flour, whole grain flour, instead of, refined bread, Ezekiel sprouted grain breads, oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, instead of the processed versions. That's a simple swap that anybody can make and can make a big difference because all of a sudden you're more than doubling the amount of fiber you're getting, compared to the refined products. And so, another thing you could do is just focus on one meal a day. Breakfast is great to start with, to start your day off right. Figure out what you might want to, make for breakfast. Figure out what you might like, and then start prepping that, have that ready to go so you can just grab and go and make that a habit. You have to make this whole lifestyle thing. It's all about habits, right? And so just taking it slowly and, gradually incorporating maybe another meal, after a couple of weeks, and then another meal after a couple of weeks helps it not feel so overwhelming. And again, it's that slow and steady progress, not perfection,
Right. So sugar. We were just talking about sugar before the break. That is a really hard addiction for many people to break. Now, I can tell you when I went whole foods plant-based, I lost my any craving for sugar. I don't even look at like desserts just gag me with it. I just don't want it. So, how do you help your clients, get past that? Because a lot of people are going to come to you sugar addicted.
Yeah. Well, it's about finding a healthy alternative, So if you like chocolate chip cookies, let's learn how to make whole food plant-based chocolate chip cookies, with instead of refined sugar, let's use some coconut sugar, date sugar, date syrup, maple syrup. It's like, let's switch those over. Let's use the whole grain flour. Instead of butter or oil or eggs, let's use some unsweetened applesauce. It's like there are different substitutions you have to learn, and then you can take your own favorite recipes and turn it into one. And I think that it's really important to, have those things ready to go so that when the sugar craving hits, you're not like, I gotta have something, and you're, grabbing for the junk, but you already have something there to replace it. And then you can, indulge. It's not even indulging because it's healthy. You know what I mean? Is you can satisfy that craving without harming your health, and I find that, it's like when you are eating the whole food plant-based version, it's not overly sweetened. And it's got all the fiber and nutrients, and I don't overeat them. And I feel like a lot of my clients feel the same way. Is like, you'll have one and you'll feel satisfied. It satisfies that craving without the overeating that the processed foods are designed to make you do because they want to make more money.
That's right. All those everything's chosen to make you become addicted to it. Absolutely. Yes. Now, so we're gonna make ourselves healthier, but a lot of people, and you hear this all the time, you see it on the blogs and everything. Vegan is so expensive. Whole foods plant-based is so expensive. Tell us about the difference.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I know that that's coming from people who've never tried it, honestly, because once you try it, you realize your grocery bill actually goes down. I'm saving hundreds every single month compared to where I was spending on meat and dairy and eggs and the processed junk foods, again, because you overeat them. So you have to buy a lot of them. And the price, they're just so expensive. So even though you may look at produce and think, oh, that's very expensive for that, it's really not compared to what you're paying for meat and dairy and eggs and processed foods. And I find that it's actually really easy to save money because the biggest expense actually for Americans is food waste. 40%. 40%, that's the average. So some people are more. 40% of your groceries go in the trash. So figure out ways to only buy what you're going to, consume for a few days, a week at a time when we're talking about fresh produce so that you're not throwing that away. But I do tons of frozen and canned and, pantry staples, so I don't have a lot of food waste as well. So I'm saving a lot of money up front right there too. So, and then there's the cost of healthcare. What are you spending on pills, doctors, co-pays, insurance? You know what I mean? It's like, so that's another expense that we saved. My kids are never sick. I'm never sick. Like, we rarely go to the doctor. I can't remember the last time I paid for a prescription because we're just not sick,
Yep, I agree. You pay now or you pay later, right?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And I think another thing, people think that it's so expensive. They're looking at these processed foods like we were talking about earlier, the fake meats and the fake cheeses and all those things. I make fake cheese, but it's with whole foods, like with sunflower seeds and carrots and stuff like that. So I can do that at home, and that's very inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Plus, it doesn't have any preservatives. And I'm sure you have lots of recipes like that. I have recipes that are my staples. I use them to mix with whole grain pasta, and I have macaroni and cheese, and we can do all those great things, and we don't have to spend money for processed substitutes for what people are used to.
Absolutely. Yeah, those processed foods are just so expensive. So, and again, I get the transition, but like, make that a quick transition. You know what I mean? Don't get stuck there. A lot of people, get to the vegan point, and that's good. It's definitely an improvement, but then they get stuck there, and you got to use that as a pass through. Know that that part is temporary, and don't get stuck in processed food land. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So now I happen to have been able to convert my husband mostly to vegan. When we go out, sometimes he'll break it,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people don't have that much luck with their families. They're like, I'm not. What do you do if your family gives you grief or doesn't want to eat this way?
Yeah, and I think that, you really have to figure out what works best for your family dynamic. Because I'm also lucky too, in that, my husband was all on board, and same thing, like he and my kids will get stuff, and whatever they want out of the house, but my house is a plant-based house. So I haven't cooked meat in 5 years. I'm not going to, and so if they want something, it has to be out of the house. And that works for some people. For other people, a good suggestion is to, if they're like totally against it, it depends on your family dynamic, who's doing the cooking. Can they help with the cooking? You know what I mean? It's like, is it really all on you, or can you ask, like, this is very important to me. If you want this, you can help me. Or it can be like making a whole food plant-based dish and then having a side of meat for other people, And I find that kind of helps actually transition them over too, because they start to taste the healthier food. They're getting healthier options as well. And then they go, oh, this is actually pretty good, And so it really depends on the dynamic. You have to get creative, and work with your family and see what, how those roles are going to be and who's going to be doing the cooking. Are they going to help? Is everybody going to do their own thing? Make it work.
Families can be very difficult at the holidays. This
Mm-hmm.
is I've been invited to this Christmas thing. And honestly, Kim, I don't want to go because number one, I don't like looking at all those dead animal parts.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, there will be like a salad for me. And so I eat ahead of time. I eat before I go.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you don't have that option. If you're staying with somebody, like families traveling back and forth, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think again, it's like you have to figure out, okay, what can I do in this situation? What's the best thing I can do? And if you're traveling, there's still grocery stores. You can still go to the grocery store. It's like, are you in somebody else's house where you could, make your own food in the kitchen? Can you bring your own food with me? That's what I do. Like when we go to somebody else's house, I'll bring my own food with me, or bring enough to share. All of a sudden, like my food is gone too. I'm like, oh, you like it, You can ask ahead of time, what's the menu going to be? And I don't expect anyone to, go out of their way to make anything for me. I'm going to ask, okay, what are you making? And so I can see, okay, I could have that. Okay, they're going to have a fruit tray and a veggie tray. Cool. I can munch on that. But most of the time I will bring something with me. Yeah, if you're out of town, I would figure out a way, like maybe if you're in a hotel, have a hotel with a kitchenette, and you could make something, there's grocery stores all around. If there's a will, there's a way. I feel like a lot of times we just go, oh, this holiday's too hard. I'm not even going to try. And it's like, okay, again, progress, not perfection. The first time I did this on the holidays, I just went vegetarian and I just ate the sides, because I was like, I was out of town as well. I was going to somebody else's house. And so I was like, okay, what's the best thing I can do in this situation? I'm going to be vegetarian for a day. Now I was sick as a dog later. So
Yeah,
you got to be careful if you're not eating dairy,
right.
all of a sudden to eat dairy, it's, can upset your stomach. But, if there's a will, there's a way, get creative. It's okay to bring your own food. And don't worry about what other people think, you know what I mean? Because it's your life, it's your health. And I think that we get too worried about other people's opinions. And really, honestly, they're not even thinking about us as much as we think they are. And I think when we are eating healthier, it really kind of shines a light on them and their issues and them recognizing in themselves, and feeling bad about their own choices. So
Yeah.
it's not even about you, really.
Now you have a gift for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
The ultimate plant-based grocery list. Yes. So this really kind of, I think, will open your eyes to all the different whole plant foods that you can choose from, because a lot of people think that going plant-based is limiting and you're only gonna be eating rabbit food, like a salad, and that's it. And so this really gives you a great huge list to start from of like look at all the options, look at all the things you can choose from. And it gives you how to save money in there as well. And so grocery saving tips.
Oh boy, because people are really struggling right now. A lot of people are having trouble. And as we go into the cooler weather, the farmers markets aren't going to be around so much. And people really have to, especially in the north of the United States and Canada, what the heck, it's really going to be difficult for a lot of people. So I think this is a great time. Thank you for offering this. I will have a link to this in the show notes. Now, I'd like you to tell people more about your book, Plant Powered, because I am just so excited and delighted for you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. It was a year of progress, work in progress. Just, I really wanted something that inspired people and was science-based. And so it really tells you about all the parts of eating plant-based and why it's important. But not just that, but like what little things to avoid. We talked about the processed foods, and also how to transition, like we were talking about, like what can you do a week at a time to make small changes, step by step by step. So the end of the book gives you a path to, make it a slow and steady progress. So I really wanted something that, just because people were always asking me questions, and, I just wanted something that had basically kind of downloaded my brain. Right. And so when people, are curious about eating plant-based, like there's so much to learn about it, especially in the beginning. And I wanted to make it easy to read, not overwhelming. I felt like the most important information for a beginner to start. And then lots of stories, lots of testimonials. Beginning of every single chapter is a story of just amazing transformation and health and success from people of all different ages and backgrounds, just to show that like it really is possible, so wherever you're at right now, wherever your health is, and you're thinking, oh, nothing works for me, this can definitely work.
I'm going to put all of the links for Kim's social media and websites. They're all going to be in the show notes. Explore Kim's information. She's a fantastic coach, a fantastic teacher, and a really good author. I didn't know that until just the last couple of weeks that you've done such an amazing job with the book. Remember, it's not just for your physical health, it's for your emotional and your mental health and your brain. Any last words, Kim?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me. It's just been a delight. I love talking to you every single time, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Brain Health Matters. I'm Kate Kunkel, and I hope you've enjoyed Kim Murphy's inspiring and informational tips to a plant-based lifestyle as much as I did. I've put Kim's contact information in the show notes, along with the link to her gift of the ultimate plant-based grocery list. And remember, there are many more episodes of Brain Health Matters, along with the latest brain health research on our website at brainhealthmatters.today. And if there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, let us know. We'll see if we can't find someone to come on to talk about it. And your help getting the word out is very much appreciated. Subscribe, write a review, or share our podcast with those who can use some help with brain health. Thanks again for joining us. And until next time, remember, it's never too early to look after your brain, but it can become too late. Now is the time to start.